Top of the evening to you, folks. Dana's tried to convince me to talk in some terrible accent, but I won't do it because I can't. I also wouldn't be able to handle myself, so I'm just going to talk to you as if I was. Just use your imagination. I'm bringing you another quick tie tonight. This one's going to be from episode 13 of season 4. So go ahead and grab this out of your season 4 kit. If you don't already have one of these, you can purchase this still at our website at www.flyfishingbolivar.com/TNLS4. Pick yours up today. You would love to have one, I promise you that. If you're watching this video, please drop a comment, like and subscribe, hit the little bell so you're notified when another great video like this comes out, so you can share along on these ties. And we just want to know you're here. So if you're there, you're part of the replay squad, drop a comment. All right, guys, we are tying Pat's Plus, which is one of my favorite guide flies. Let's head on over to the vise and get started. Go ahead and get that bead put on your hook. I'm going to grab some thread. Thread's not really a huge color-wise, whatever. Something dark. I'm using something tan because it's what's convenient, and it will work just fine. I'm using UTC 140 as I like to be able to have a little bit more tension when it comes to this pattern. I can pull harder on it. I'm going to start my thread behind the bead, work it back down the hook shank, and I'm going to leave it about halfway down. Not too many materials in this pattern, but I'm going to go over to those black rubber legs that we provided for you. I'm going to wrap them around my thread. I'm going to pull them kind of up, use my thread to bind it to the top of the hook where I want it to. Take a couple thread wraps over those rubber legs to kind of hold them in place. Then I like to take them like so with my fingers. So I'm splitting them. I'm going to split them, and I'm going to continue taking thread wraps back to just before the bend, like so. And then I've got my rubber legs that are kind of perfectly splayed, and they're going to come right off either side of that hook, right where I want them to be. Now I'm going to go into my next material, which is basically the biggest part of our fly, which is some type of coffee colored chenille. You could go all black as well. I really like the preference that I have is this coffee chenille. Okay, I'm going to get this started right in front of where I left those rubber legs. I'm going to advance forward all the way up to just behind the bead. I'm going to put a little half hitch in there and save my work. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start wrapping. Okay, just making sure I get good coverage, just touching wraps moving forward. This is going to look real plump because this is quite a large style of chenille, but we actually are going to do a little bit of trimming on it as part of this as well. So I'm going to take it just up to behind the bead. Doesn't have to be super tight to the bead because we're actually going to be wrapping back over some of this. I'm going to take some thread wraps on either side, making sure that that core that's in the chenille is what's actually bound down, and I'm not just tied onto the edge of the material because we wouldn't want it to come out on us. So now that I've got that like so, I'm going to take some thread wraps back. Okay, so I'm going to go to about the third way mark back on the fly roughly, something like that. And I'm just going to lay a bunch of thread wraps down, kind of binding all that material down. We're going to put some dubbing in this space here in just a moment. Okay, so now that I have this, I want to protect those legs. I don't want to cut them, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start trimming a bit of a taper on this chenille. So we almost come down to a point at the tail and building up to a bigger thorax up front. So I'm just going to do a little trimming. Don't have to go crazy with it, but just enough to make that little bit of shape. And then we'll use some dubbing to create a nice big thorax. So I like that shape that I got up front there. It's tapered a little bit. Make sure you kind of get that equal all the way around, which can be a little tough at times. We'll call that good there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to grab. We have some pheasant tail, just a few strands. You don't need a lot of it. Pheasant tail like so. I'm going to tie in the thick side first. So I'm going to just trim off those curlies at the bottom so they don't get stuck in anything. We're going to use this to be our top of our thorax. So I'm going to tie this in here, right behind the bead. I'm going to bring it back to about that 1/3 mark. At the same time, I'm going to go grab that other set of black legs that I have. I'm going to fold these ones over so I create a loop like that. Now I'm going to take that loop kind of in the middle of that strand, and I'm going to hold that loop out over top of the fly, and I'm going to bind it down right there. Pull it out a little bit and take some nice loose wraps back to that third way point, and then I'm going to take those legs and move them around to the side of the fly. Just like that. And I'm left with that loop up front. When I snip that open, it's going to give me 2 more legs. Now what I got to do, the last piece of this is adding in some dubbing. Normally you're using some type of possum because it's a little bit firmer, has a little bit more guard hairs in it. What we're going to do is we're going to make a nice little dubbing noodle here. And we're going to get this. Don't worry about overdoing it. A little bit more dubbing isn't a bad thing on this fly. It's going to give it a little bit more bulk. Going to add a little bit more here. There's two styles of doing this. You could just make a dubbing noodle, or you could actually split your thread, or make a bit of a more complex with your dubbing spinner and make a noodle. I prefer to do it just this way. I'm going to pull the material back, take a couple thread wraps right behind the eye. Now what I want to do is pull that little bit of pheasant tail over top. It doesn't give a crazy change, but it does show that we have a top to our thorax, gives a little bit of shine. We're going to put a couple drops of dubbing up, or a couple drops of UV resin up there. Going to take some thread wraps down, secure that in place. I'm going to pull this up and trim out that pheasant tail. I'm going to take a quick whip finish here before I put a little bit of resin on here. Just like that. I don't have to get crazy because I am going to put some resin out over those thread wraps. I'm going to go ahead and trim that front circle, that loop. It opens up and gives me my legs. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of UV resin before I finish trimming. Wherever I did with it here. There it is. I'm just going to put a little bit of UV resin right on the top of this fly. Actually, I'm going to grab my other resin. I like this stuff a little more. A little bit thicker stuff. This is the Thin Hard formula by Solarez. I'm going to put a drop right over top of those thread wraps, and then I'm going to take a little bit and put it farther back. Sometimes you'll get some material kind of caught in it like I just did. Just try to get that out before you cure it. Because once you cure it, you can't do anything about it. Now I'm going to cure that right there. Now I'm going to go trim my legs. So I want to have my legs be about a full hook length in length out the back. Similar to if I pull these ones forward, they would look like a full length out ahead. And then the side ones, I just want to try to create some similar length to the front ones. So I'll pull those out and match them. And there we go, guys. There is our Pats Plus. A little different version on a Pats rubber legs. I really like this one. Really durable. Super easy to tie. Keep your box full of them. Okay, guys. Again, this is Tim Hepworth with Thursday Night Live Fly Tying and flyfishingborder.com. Like and subscribe to this video. Let us know you were here. Until next time, we'll see you back on episode 14 for some more quick ties.